I'm Nick Westergaard, and this is On Brand, helping you tell your story. My guest this week is Mark Abraham.
To do artificial intelligence right, you need organizational intelligence. What does that mean? Well, it means bringing together these cross-functional teams that don't naturally work together or get along and speak different languages, frankly. So how do you create a nimble team of doers to go get it done in a new way and break down these silos?
Mark Abraham is a senior partner at Boston Consulting Group and the founder of the firm's Personalization business, which he has built into a global team of more than 1,000 agile marketers, data scientists, engineers, and martech experts. Mark's teams have accelerated the personalization efforts of over 100 iconic brands, including Starbucks, Home Depot, and Google, and built some of BCG's largest ventures and AI platforms, including Fabriq for personalization. Mark now leads BCG's North American marketing, sales, and pricing practice. He's also co-authored the upcoming book, Personalized: Customer Strategy in the Age of AI. My interview with Mark Abraham is coming right up. But first,
my dad works in B2B marketing, but I never really knew what that meant. Then one day my dad came by my school for career day and told everyone in my class he was a big ROAS man. Then he just kept saying things like, the bigger the ROAS, the better, over and over. My friends still laugh at me to this day. I think it means calculating a return on ad spend. One thing's for sure, I'll be known as the ROAS man's kid for the rest of my days. Why couldn't you just be a fireman or a lawyer? Why? You ruined my life, Dad.
Not everyone gets B2B, but LinkedIn has the people who do. And with ads on LinkedIn, you'll be able to reach people based on job title, industry, likelihood to buy, and more. Start converting your B2B audience into high-quality leads today. We'll even give you a $100 credit on your next ad campaign. Go to linkedin.com/MPN to claim your credit. That's linkedin.com/MPN. Terms and conditions apply. LinkedIn, the place to be, to be.
The IKEA Business Network is now open for small businesses and entrepreneurs. Join for free today to get access to interior design services to help you make the most of your workspace, employee well-being benefits to help you and your people grow, and amazing discounts on travel, insurance, and IKEA purchases, deliveries, and more. Take your small business to the next level when you sign up for the IKEA Business Network for free today by searching IKEA Business Network.
Mark Abraham, welcome to On Brand.
Thanks for having me.
I look forward to chatting. You know, we talk about the whole spectrum of brand building and marketing here, but I will confess, in 500 or so episodes, I'm not sure we've talked all that much about personalization. And I wonder, what are most of us not thinking of when it comes to this very important practice in marketing?
Well, it's a critical piece that is oft forgotten. I think in this age of AI, we talk so much about AI being used for driving efficiency, but actually AI-driven personalization is a critical part of branding and a critical part of driving growth. I think branding at its core, of course, is about building the emotional connection. That hasn't changed. But I think how you build that emotional connection, how you nurture those relationships, absolutely has. With technology that we have today, customer data that we have today, it's possible to take an interaction with a customer, really get to know them in that interaction, and then turn around and then the very next interaction, even if it's a few hours later, a few days later, really make their experience better, more convenient, faster, and provide better value. So all of that is possible with personalization.
So it seems like conventional wisdom tells us, and would have all marketers listening nodding along with, you can't take a one-size-fits-all approach, that you need to personalize your marketing efforts for your customers. But there seems to be a disconnect in the work getting done. What are there levels of personalization that most people are doing, this level. A few more are doing this, and very few are reaching this upper level. What have you found about kind of the spread of personalization out there?
What's interesting is there hasn't been a way to truly measure personalization objectively to date. That's exactly what I sought to remedy with my book, Personalized. In it, we lay out the personalization index, which is a simple score, 0 to 100, that measures your personalization level. And it really looks at each aspect of personalization, which we can talk about. But I think the average brand only scores a 48, and only 15% of brands get a great score above 70 or 75. So, what are they missing? Well, some of the things that are especially hard in personalization is connecting channels, really using that information about the customer and rapidly turning it around so that you're making that next experience better, faster, the speed of personalization. Also, the level of experimentation and how much the marketers are able to run experiments and learn about customers, how quickly. All those things are some of the things that set personalization leaders apart.
So you alluded to this earlier, and I mean, I feel like beyond personalization, so many of us today are quick to kind of zoom ahead to the shiny new thing that is AI. You talked earlier about kind of connecting the dots in personalization and AI. What does this look like?
So, in my book, I lay out the 5 promises of personalization, and it's a simple, practical playbook to follow. You still have to start with the customer, just like when you're building brands. What are you trying to do to help the customer? I call this the promise of empower me. If I'm a customer, I want you as a brand to help me, help get something done. Let's say if you are Spotify, I'm trying to help you get a better music feed in your app and listen to great music. And next, you really have to know the customer. You need to be able to gather all that data, store it effectively, manage it effectively, uh, tag the data about the data to be able to use it. That's what I call the promise of know me. So Spotify actually meta tags all the songs with lots of pieces of information to then be able to marry that data up with my clicks in the app and serve up just the right music for me. Next is the promise of reach me. I actually have to serve up that data and show me the content, the music library they have, paired up with the intelligence in AI that's really serving it up just in time for me to listen to, let's say, if I'm hosting a dinner party on that Friday night. And finally, I stress the last promise is the most important around delight me, which is making the experience better every time, which involves running lots of experiments all the time and being able to measure them very quickly for the teams to learn how to make the experience better. Spotify runs hundreds or thousands of experiments concurrently in the app to find ways to make the experience better.
That is a great step-by-step approach to the work. In your book, I wonder, is there a story that you happened upon that really illustrates this from a brand? You mentioned Spotify, but are there others that are connecting these dots?
What I love about personalization now is it used to be 10 years ago or more that only digital natives could do this. Only they had the technology, the ways of working to really pull this off. In the last decade, though, every industry has minted personalization leaders, many of them coming from more traditional businesses. One of the ones we worked with is Starbucks, and they were early pioneers in this. They obviously had an amazing brand built around the emotional connection in the third place between the barista and the customer. But really in the last decade is when they took that and extended it into the digital realm through great personalization. It involved breaking some silos down and inventing new ways of working by bringing together the marketing, technology, and analytics teams in agile ways. People talk a lot about agile, but this was truly these cross-functional teams working shoulder to shoulder and doing the work together to bring personalization to life.
I love that example too, because I think, yeah, we tend to think of, I think of digital natives as people, but even brands as, digital first brands like your Spotify, but ones that are very much brick and mortar out there like Starbucks. There are beyond the brick and mortar, there's data that we can do things with, and it kind of shines a light on the fact that all of this work, from personalization to customer strategy and AI, that a lot of it is data dependent, and that sounds scary, but it feels like that we probably have a lot of data in our businesses that we are not leveraging as effectively as we could. Does that sound accurate?
Absolutely. We talk a lot about data privacy concerns, which are very real, but customers would love to give brands data if that makes their experience better. I do a lot of consumer research and my team talks to thousands of consumers around the world. One of them really captured it very well, I think, by saying, I may not have chosen to live in a world where brands have all this data about me, but they do. So they better make my experience better, faster, and more convenient. Because guess what? When I go on Amazon or go online and all these great brands, that's the experience I'm getting. So I expect that from every brand now. And the truth is, no matter what your business, you have transactional and customer data at a minimum. And then you can make choices around how are you going to collect data from customers that actually makes their lives easier too. One small example of that I love is Lululemon. About 8 years ago, decided to do e-receipts in the store, right? People are coming in, buying their Lululemon clothes, and then wouldn't it be easier if you gave us your email address and you got a receipt? You didn't have to store that paper receipt, lose it, then not be able to return stuff. And so they did, and customers loved it. It was so much easier to do returns. You could just give your email. And as a result, they established a digital relationship with their customers.
On Brand will be right back after this.
You may know you're listening to this show along the Marketing Podcast Network, but did you know there are other great shows on MPN to help your business? Christy Heiler hosts a fantastic podcast called Own It. Christy, tell us more about the show.
Own It is all about celebrating women and non-binary advertising agency owners. We talk about buying out of the Boys Club of Advertising because less than 1% of ad agencies are owned by women.
And where can people subscribe?
You can find the podcast at untilyouownit.com. We're also on the Marketing Podcast Network at marketingpodcast.net. And of course, you can subscribe wherever you get your podcasts.
You heard her. Go subscribe. You may know you're listening to this show along the Marketing Podcast Network, but did you know there are other great shows on MPN to help your business? Robbie Samuels hosts the On the Schmooze podcast. Robbie, tell listeners what to expect from the show.
Since 2015, I've interviewed entrepreneurs who overcame challenges to achieve success in their field or industry. Tune in to On the Schmooze to listen as I ask deep questions to elicit untold stories about leadership and networking.
And where can people subscribe?
Find the show at ontheschmooze.com or on marketingpodcast.net, or just search for it wherever you get your podcasts.
You heard them. Go subscribe.
Now, back to the show. So we were talking earlier about, when we were talking about all of this data, you mentioned the concerns about privacy, and I feel like I'm almost seeing like a Venn diagram in terms of personalization, privacy, and as we talk about brands under leveraging their data points, a big concern around that might be privacy issues. How can brands navigate the scary part of that?
A couple of industries that have come a long way that used to shy away from personalization because of that is financial services and healthcare.
Right.
And I think the core mantra that they followed is simply ask the customer, ask for permission. A great example of this is Fidelity. They're one of the largest wealth managers in the U.S. They start by creating an investment plan for you, either through the wealth advisor or you can take an online survey. It's the customer's choice to do that. But once they do that, all their communications, all their touch points with the customer are tailored based on that information. If you don't need life insurance, they're not going to try to sell it to you. But if you have a life event, let's say you had a baby, they're going to educate you about things like 529 plans. So how do you start that relationship by really asking the customer, allowing them to opt into more and more of a personalized relationship with you?
So as we're talking about kind of some of these baby steps towards better personalization, especially in the context of AI, is there something that if you were in the elevator, the proverbial elevator with someone, and it's like, darn it, I need to do that better. Is there one thing that you would tell a business leader, a marketing leader to try out that would start to move the needle in the right direction?
So we talk a lot about the data and technology aspects, and there's a lot of things to get right there. But actually, what I like to say is to do artificial intelligence right, you need organizational intelligence. What does that mean? Well, it means bringing together these cross-functional teams that don't naturally work together or get along and speak different languages, frankly. Marketing speaks a different language from technology. The analytics teams have different objectives than the other two teams. So how do you create a nimble team of doers, task them with a simple, clear goal, measurable, and allow them to make rapid progress? Pick a use case, pick an easy area that you can improve the customer experience in, and assemble a small team that can go get it done in a new way and break down these silos.
Writing a book is hard enough work and a heavy enough lift. In where you've been spending time of looking at customer strategy in the age of AI through your book, Personalized, after this immersion and looking at how the landscape has changed over the last couple of years, are you able to look ahead, especially in your work with BCG, in terms of where next, where from here when it comes to customer strategy and really the snowball that is AI?
Yeah, we actually have a whole chapter dedicated to the future of personalization and what it will mean for the customer experience. I'm really excited by it. I think one of the pieces is around data. And one of the predictions we make is that, there's a lot of talk about customers getting control of their data and more regulation on data privacy, which will come. But we also make a prediction that customers will continue to share their data. Brands already have amassed incredible amounts of data. So that wave is not stopping. We talk a lot about what's happening in content, and Gen AI is truly going to change the game. So far, we did a survey with a couple of hundred CMOs, and they talk about 80% of them talk about how they've already applied Gen AI to driving efficiencies in content generation. But what's more exciting is actually able to then, given those efficiencies, reinvest some of those resources to generate much more personalized content. Now, the scary part of this is we are going to see a content explosion And we think we're already living in a world of spam. Well, it's about to get much worse unless brands really take to heart the mantra of less is more. And I think that's where the personalization leaders really stand out. They use AI, they use the processes to curate of this vast content library, which, by the way, the personalization leaders have more content than they have customers. They have to select which pieces of content they're going to show them. But if they don't do that, then we will truly be inundated by spam. The last prediction I make is one around ecosystems. I think, including with Gen AI and with technology, we can now connect experiences across brands to truly solve customer problems. So take travel as an example. You might today have to book your flight and book your hotel and book your destination restaurants and experiences separately. Already with Gen AI tools, like if you go on Expedia, you can start to research all of that together. I think we will see even more connected experiences like you're seeing with loyalty tie-ups like Starbucks' partnership with Marriott or Delta recently. Really rewarding these experiences and making them super easy from a digital standpoint.
Boy, of everything that you just walked us through, I think that less is more is really the point for folks to pay attention to, because I think any AI conversation at a basic level ends up being about all of the new stuff that we can make and, as you said, spam people with. And I think, I mean, I'm a fan as from the kind of creative lane of it, of less is more. People are overwhelmed. They can't process everything that we're sending at them in terms of the actual creative and messaging. But when it comes to the quantity, I think what you said in there of beyond the maybe artistic angle of less is more and to the yes, they have more content, but it is what combination they're putting the different pieces in to personalize that customer experience. So it seems like there's a way to, I want to make sure I say this as eloquently as you've been in describing this, but it's almost like all of these tools allow us to do less is more, or take less is more to a new and powerful level.
Yeah, it's staggering when you look at the numbers. We send about 360 billion emails per day across brands. We worked with one airline, and they were sending up to 10 emails a week to their best customers. They thought they were employing a pretty sophisticated approach using data science, which they were. They were targeting these emails, but
Right.
as a result, every product silo, the flight, the ancillary products, the travel insurance folks, etc., were blasting people, their best customers, with emails. And that's what a lot of brands end up doing, is because they have siloed teams. And as a result, all these teams are contacting the best customers. So how did we deal with this? Well, you can use AI now. You just need the content library on the one hand, actually put your content all together in one place, and then score customers based on what is the best next action, best next conversation to have with them. Using this approach, we reduced the frequency of emails by 75% overall. And even the best customers were only getting a few per week. And engagement doubled. Incremental revenues from those emails generated were up by 10%. So less is more, and customers like it, and it's better for business.
Well said. Well, that idea of how we can do less is more better makes me smile. Mark, it is now my chance to get to ask you for a brand that has made you smile recently.
So we've talked a lot about digital personalization and digital connection. I think there is still such an important role for the human connection. Every year I go back to Europe to visit family, and there's a little store I go to buy a lot of my dress shirts. And I hadn't been there in over a year, but I walked in, and the sales associate immediately greeted me by name, knew my size, recommended a few of the great new items that had come in. It's that kind of personal, emotional connection that brands need to go back to. We can do it leveraging the tools we have and technology now at scale. We can recreate those kinds of experiences for thousands and millions of customers, but we have to be really thoughtful about what we're designing for. And so I always go back to that original human emotional connection that you're trying to achieve as a brand.
That's a great example, a great smile. And I think it is, so on brand for our conversation here, because it really is at the heart of everything. That little shop isn't spamming everyone with your shirt size, your recommendations. It was based on you, and I think that's what we can be better at with today's tools if we embrace what you've been talking about with us. If folks are excited about this conversation, want to know more, want to take things to the next level, where can they go to find more about who you are and what you do?
Well, definitely check out my book, Personalized, Customer Strategy in the Age of AI. You can find out more about it on personalizedthebook.com, but also check out my YouTube channel and LinkedIn, Mark Abraham AI, and lots of fun bonus content there, case studies. You can fill out the personalization index and see where you stand and learn more about how to take the next steps.
Awesome. Well, we will link up to that in our show notes, which folks can always find at onbrandpodcast.com. Mark Abraham, thanks for being on brand with us.
Thanks for having me.
On Brand is part of the Marketing Podcast Network. If you like what you're hearing, if we've made you smile, you can always listen free on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or whatever your favorite platform may be. And please take a moment and rate and review the podcast to help others find the show. Until next week, I'm Nick Westergaard, and I'll see you on the internet.
This podcast is heard along the Marketing Podcast Network. For more great marketing podcasts, visit marketingpodcasts.net.